How surprised were you by their win in Game 1?
Well, I definitely was surprised, John. I didn't. Bradley and John did not shoot well.
Right.
And I really thought that with the Bulls, I mean, I picked the Bulls to win in 6 in the paper because of their playoff experience. And you know, when a team that's led by guys who have never been to the playoffs before go to the playoffs, history tells you that there is a learning curve there. But history also tells you if you have a great big man who steps up, that can really kind of help to balance things. And Nene was just outstanding. So while I was surprised that they won, I think the fact that Nene played as well as he did really shows you the potential for this team if this guy can stay on the court. Now, obviously, the problem has been him staying on the court, but he stayed on the court in Game 1, so that's what really was the difference maker for them.
Matt, thoughts from Game 1 for the Wizards?
Yeah, I think what Jason said is correct. I mean, you have this weird mix with the Wizards roster of like really young guys, never first playoff experience, and then guys that you're saying are almost too old. Or have trouble staying healthy. But the thing is, once you get to the playoffs, there's no more back-to-backs. You're going to have, after they play Tuesday night, you got 2 days off before they come back to. Well, it's happening the same thing with the Nets too. They're a team that struggled all season, and now they're looking like they could do something because you're not playing those back-to-backs anymore, and so an aging roster is not that big a deal anymore. And then for whatever as debilitating as that injury was, it meant that he wasn't on the court for 5 weeks. Now, he was getting healthy. It's not the same as resting, but the point is he didn't have a lot of wear and tear even on the stretch run of this regular season. So in some ways it could have worked out pretty well for them.
LeVar, Nene had about 35 minutes, I think, on the court. Do you expect him that sort of those minutes to continue through the series, especially if he's playing this way?
It's probably a feel your way through it type of situation as needed, probably. But I think when you look at the point production, Nene had 24, Ariza had 18, Wall had 16, Gortat 15, Beal 13, Miller 10. I think what we talked about came to fruition in that game, where those names that I read to you, most of those guys are playoff guys other than Beal and Wall. And we said if they were going to have success, it would take those journeymen on this team to show that experience out there on the court, and that's what you saw. So even though Wall didn't have and Beal together didn't have an amazing game shooting the ball, the athleticism and the ability to create space and push the tempo and do those things that John Wall is able to do, it still created the type of spacing to get those guys their shots, to get the type of points, score 100 points in the playoffs. Something was happening that needed to happen. So I think they will play Nene as needed, but obviously having that physical presence with Nene and Gortat down low, it's going to be the difference in this series because I think they had the clear advantage with their point guard and their shooting guard. Question is, can they handle the physicality down low against Chicago's
of the
bigs?
number one defensive team in the NBA.
There you go.
Jason, you mentioned the struggle shooting from the backcourt. Can the Wizards expect to win this series if that continues? Like they were able to get Game 1, obviously, with great front court play. Are Wall and Beal going to have to shoot better to win this series?
Well, I mean, I think so.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know if you can. I mean, as talented as Nene is, and as much of a warrior as Gortat is, and as great as Ariza has been, Ariza has won a championship, in his career. I just don't know if you can expect those guys to carry enough of a scoring burden if Wall and Beal are not at least being somewhat more efficient. I mean, maybe they can. Again, I picked the Bulls in 6 because I thought from an experience standpoint and from a defense standpoint, I thought John and Brad would struggle in this series. I mean, Jimmy Butler was chasing Beal all over the court, did a heck of a job there, and I just didn't think that they would be able to do enough offensively, those two in particular, to overcome the Bulls in a 7-game series. So, yeah, long-winded answer, yes, I do think that they have to shoot better, but you know what? I mean, I thought they had to shoot better in Game 1 too, and look what happened.
I think you could almost argue that they don't because the Bulls can't score themselves that much, and so I think you can get away with a little bit. I mean, are you saying, yeah, I want our top 2 scorers to go 7 for 25 for the rest of the series? No,
right.
But
and you can't assume that they will.
Right.
7
I mean,
25.
yeah,
But the Bulls seem to gear up against that to take the backcourt away,
right?
And then the front court obviously stepped up. Now there were a lot of free throws in that game as well.
You
Which were a big
cannot
factor.
minimize Ariza's playoff playoff
Yep.
ability.
Right.
You cannot. That man was arguably the MVP on a team with one of the greatest basketball players in Kobe Bryant of all time. He came out and he played lights out basketball for the Lakers when they went on that championship run. He has the ability to be able to do that, and he's shown it all season long. Maybe quietly because of some of those guys, Wall and Bill get all of the accolades, but Ariza has been there all season
He
long.
had a great season.
I would not minimize the fact that he could again be that missing cog, that he could be that piece for this team in the
We
playoffs.
talked about it all year, Wall, Beal, and Nene, right? But then Ariza and Gortat could be the two most
Ariza
key
was
players.
huge
Gortat had
when,
13 rebounds.
Nene
too.
was hurt.
Right.
So the one thing you would say is those guys can't shoot that badly if Nene gets in
Right.
foul trouble.
Right.
That was a big
Well, if Nene
factor.
gets hurt again.
Right, but I think the schedule, barring a
Oh, yeah,
calamitous
yeah, yeah.
injury, the
Well, yeah, 'cause
schedule
you have-
allows
yeah,
him to play
yeah,
long
because
minutes.
because you have time, you have more break time.
I want to ask you, Matt, about the Bulls as an opponent. You mentioned that they don't score a lot, and they're one of the worst shooting teams. In fact, I think they might be the worst shooting team in the NBA from the regular season. But of course, that defense really evens them out, and that's how they've been successful.